Hello everyone, let's see the server side rendering an online e-commerce store. So imagine you are visiting the e-commerce store or to view a product page. So if a user makes a request, the user click on the link to view a laptop product page. The request is sent to the server and then server fetches data. The server receives the request for that product page. The server needs to display the information like product's title, price, reviews, description, stock availability, any other dynamic contents. So server makes an API call to retrieve these data for the laptop. For a user that makes a request for a laptop product page to view, server then fetches the data and then server generates a fully rendered HTML. Once the data is fetched, server takes this information and dynamically generates the HTML for the page, like the HTML structure, headings, paragraph, images, and filled in product details, title, price, description, other elements like reviews, ratings, and call to action buttons. Example, add to cart. So the fully rendered HTML is now ready to be sent to the browser. Next, server sends fully rendered HTML to the browser. First, server generates the fully rendered HTML and then it will be send the fully rendered HTML to the browser. Server sends the complete HTML page to the browser, including the content already filled in with product information, and then browser doesn't have to wait for a JavaScript to load and render the page. It can display the product page almost instantly because everything is pre-rendered. And then user sees the product page. Users see the page instantly. The HTML content is displayed as showing the product title, price, image, description. The page is now visible to the user with all necessary data even before the JavaScript has been executed. This is good for SEO because search engines can easily read and index the content. And then React hydrates the page. After the HTML is displayed, React takes over on the client side. This process is called a hydration. So React makes a page interactive, meaning the dynamic content like add to cart button, ratings, updates can now function thanks to React's high event handling and state management. From here, the React can update the page without reloading it and user can interact with it. So when a user requests a product page, you would wait for the JavaScript to load and then render the page on the client side, which can take time, especially if the content is complex or data heavy. The page would appear blank until the content is fetched and rendered. This is before SSR. So with SSR, the server pre-renders the content first, like product details. So you see the page instantly only after that. React takes over to manage any interactivity. This improves both performance, faster load, and then SEO search engines can index the content. So this is the real-time flow. User request means clicks on the product page. Server fetches data. Server pulls data from the database API, and then our server renders the HTML. Server sends pre-rendered HTML with the product info, and then page loads on the browser. User sees the product page with content immediately. React hydration. React adds the interactivity like cart buttons, form submissions. This flow is real world example of how SSR works in a modern web application. So providing an SEO friendly fast experience for user, especially for content heavy pages like product listings or blog post. This is the usage of server side rendering. Let's see the client side rendering. using the React. In React, everything happens the client side after the initial HTML page is loaded. There is no pre-rendered HTML sent by the server, which is like in a server side rendering. So here everything is a client side rendering. So the browser needs to load the JavaScript first. In client side rendering, the browser needs to load the JavaScript first, and then React takes over the render the page. So, for example, the user makes a request. The user click on a link to view a laptop product page on an e-commerce site. The request is sent to the server, just like we saw in the SSR server side rendering. The initial HTML loads. The server responds with a basic HTML template for the page. HTML usually only includes a div ID equal to double quotes of root. This is what a React contains. This is the basic HTML template the server will responds with. So which is an empty container where the React app will eventually be rendered. So this HTML does not include product data yet. It's basic shell that's loaded initially to get the page structure up as fast as possible. So this is when a user make a request, the server will be respond like this. So browser then downloads the JavaScript. Once the basic HTML template loaded means the browser fetches the JavaScript files. These JavaScript files contains the React components and logic for rendering the entire page. So these JavaScript files contain the React components and logic for rendering the entire page. The JavaScript files might be large and take some time to download. So the user might see a loading spinner or a blank page until everything is fetched and processed. So third step is browser download the JavaScript, and then React renders the page on the client side. After downloading the JavaScript, React renders the page on the client side. After the JavaScript is downloaded, React takes over using the DOM element identified as root. So React fetches the required data like product title, price, description using an API call, often via use effect. This is the example over here. So this will fetch a product data from the API like /API product. So if product is not means, it will show the loading, and then it will return the product.name, price, description, and then button add to cart. This is the product page. React fetches the product data and dynamically populates the page with product's title, price, and description. So this is what a React fetches the required data. This is the React component. User sees the content. Once the data is fetched and React renders the content, so the user see the full product page populated with the data title, price, description. So the pages appears only after the JavaScript has executed and fetched the data. So there is a delay between the initial request and seeing the full content. So user sees the content by React rendering the complete. User interacts with the page. After the page is rendered, React manages the page's interactivity. Like example, buttons, forms, dynamic content updates. For example, clicking the add to cart button will trigger the React state changes and update the UI dynamically without requiring a page reload. So this is the summary of a React client-side rendering in action. So the page is initially HTML. Before client-side rendering, the page is initially HTML is just a shell with no content. The browser has to download the JavaScript file, and only which can take some time, and only then does React render the page dynamically with data. Example, product details. Let's see this example again. A user request clicks on a product page. Server sends the When the user clicks on a product page, server sends the basic HTML. Contains the only basic structure like this: div id equal to root. The browser downloads the JavaScript then, and then React fetches the data and then renders the page. React makes an API call to fetch product details and dynamic renders the page. User sees the content. Product page is displayed, populated with the product data. And then React handles the interactivity like adding items to the cart. So the key difference between the server side rendering and client side rendering is like rendering location. The server pre-renders the HTML and sends it to the browser. So the page is displayed quick with the content. This is the server side rendering. The server pre-renders the HTML. But in the client side rendering, the browser receives an HTML shell and then downloads the JavaScript, which dynamically renders the content after the data is fetched. And then initial load time, in the server side rendering, the initial content is displayed faster because the HTML is already pre-rendered on the server. Client side rendering, there is a delay because the browser has to load JavaScript first, then fetch the data and render the page. Since the page is fully rendered when it's sent to the browser, it's SEO friendly, which is the server side rendering. Client-side rendering SEO may be slightly impacted because search engines might not fully index the content if the JavaScript isn't executed yet. And then user experience, the user sees the content almost instantly in the server side rendering. In client side rendering, the user might see a blank or loading page until the JavaScript loads and React renders the content. So this is the difference between the client side rendering and server side rendering. Thank you.